We get to see the maple trees, maple sugar on the maple leaves. We get the biggest wheat fields growing tall. In Canada, where we see the reversing falls. In Canada, we get to see them all.
G'day, eh? Well, with the Epstein email revelations over the last week, mainstream MAGA is desperately screaming, "It's not what it looks like!" to anyone who'll listen. One of the first in this despicable list was Megyn Kelly, who tried to make child sex trafficking more acceptable since she heard from someone with inside information that Epstein preferred his victims to be barely legal and who could pass as younger or older depending on the circumstances.
So the GOP didn't do Trump any favors by releasing these emails. They basically saw his grease fire and said, let us add some water. And his supporters on TV aren't doing that much better.
This is obviously an attempt to smear the president by cherry picking.
This is just all for show.
A distraction.
Just ridiculous.
The Carnival show.
It's journalistically malpractice.
They love to create drama.
This whole Epstein Files thing, a little bit played out.
Played out? You know shit's bad when the sensationalist media is like, you guys don't want to hear about the international island sex scandal. Let's talk about budgetary cuts. Let's get nasty. Come on, guys, that's not going to work. If you want to downplay this story, you need a master, all right? Megyn Kelly, you're a master of spin. Show us what you got.
As for Epstein, he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. You know, it's just whatever. It's sick.
How the hell was Megyn Kelly ever an attorney? Your Honor, my client only engaged in diet pedophilia. Ma'am, everyone knows there's a big difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old, but everyone also knows there is never a good reason to be talking about that difference.
Well, the federal law on age of consent mandates that individuals must be at least 18 to consent to sexual activity. If the activity involves interstate travel or online communications with a minor, this means that even if a state's legal age of consent is lower than 18, the federal standard will apply in specific cases. As a middle-aged woman with a daughter of her own, fuck her and fuck her sympathetic guest for going along with it. From the podium, another fucking woman with a child, Caroline Lips Levitt, told the outrageous lie from her podium that her Fuhrer did nothing wrong, according to the emails.
Meantime, newly released emails reveal Jeffrey Epstein said President Trump, quote, knew about the girls. The convicted sex offender who died by suicide said so in a 2019 email to author Michael Wolff. A private correspondence was released by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee today. Epstein wrote, quote, of course, reportedly meaning Trump knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop, in reference to Epstein's former girlfriend and recruiter Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently in prison. The full context is not immediately clear. Another 2011 email from Epstein to Maxwell said Trump, quote, spent hours at my house with one of Epstein's victims. Trump has long denied knowledge of Epstein's crimes before he says he had a falling out. They had a falling out. Tune in tonight at 6 for new updates.
In what passes for right-wing humor, disgusting faux TV troll Greg Gutfeld made lewd remarks about Democrats, but not once does he mention his boy Donnie.
Kristi Noem boasted about the new Operation Dirtbag, where Homeland Security caught 150 illegal immigrant sex offenders. This is not to be confused with an earlier Operation Dirtbag when President Biden tried to find a whore for Hunter. This week in New York City, the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree arrived, although it spent its first night in the emergency room after getting molested on the D train. A man set a world record for snapping the most cucumbers in 30 seconds with his bare hands. But another man protested the record, saying it's not fair that he used his hands. Yeah.
Disgraced lawyer Alan Dirty Shorts Dershowitz tried to have it both ways, saying he wants everything released, while at the same time claiming selective prosecution and disputing the truthfulness of the victims.
Her testimony has been very contradictory, and that's been proven, and I think almost everybody knows that. What's so odd about this, and this speaks to the kind of meta-truths or untruths of the Epstein story, is that people just don't really want to believe it. They want to believe so much that Giuffre is this victim that they overlook the contradictions in her accounts.
And that's why it's so important for everything to come out, not just selective. For example, there are depositions that I am aware of because I was involved in the depositions that the courts are now sealing. And those depositions would disclose a great deal of information that would be relevant to the public to assess credibility of various people. And so what's the worst possible thing is selective disclosure, and that's what we're seeing. Selective disclosure. Who's making the selections? The Democrats withheld the name of Virginia Giuffre, and the White House had to reveal it. And people withhold information, not neutrally, but they withhold it in order to present their narrative. And the counter narrative has to be there too. And the only way to do that is to have every bit of information revealed, every bit. Remember these, quote, alleged victims, some of whom are real victims, some of which are not. They're all now in their 40s. They're adults. There's no reason to protect them. If they are real victims, they shouldn't be ashamed of having been victimized. If they're fake victims, if they were persuaded by their lawyers to file an application for money, even though they had never met Jeffrey Epstein, and we know such cases exist, then they have no right to privacy. So everything inclines toward complete and total disclosure. We'll never get total disclosure until the judges, not the Trump administration, the judges unseal material they've now sealed.
And trying on some of these ridiculous claims and concern for the real victims is creepy Kevin O'Leary, the expat Canadian game show host whose citizenship should be revoked after his appearance on CNN this week. O'Leary's always been repulsive, but he took it to another level, even suggesting the now women are only in it for a payout.
If any of you cared about the victims, you wouldn't drag these women who are in childbearing years now, some of them having children, back into the limelight, back into the same story to expose them again to this hideous outcome because these guys,
if you don't,
so you want to do that,
do it to somebody else.
Them,
They could be doing it to somebody else
they
right
don't
now.
want you to help them anymore. They want them.
How do you know that? What are you basing
I know
that
with
on?
certainty they'd rather live out their lives to keep being brought back talking about Epstein. You really think they want that now?
You're speaking on behalf of women, saying that you've personally spoken to victims who said they do not want justice pursued.
I have spoken to no one. I'm just being pragmatic.
So then that is an
You're
irresponsible
dragging out
statement.
women.
You have no idea what these young women want.
If it was you, you'd rather get on with your life? Aren't you
no,
done
if
with
it
this?
were me, I would want justice pursued.
Here's what should be.
Money? What do you want?
Here's who should get on with his life.
The truth is out. There's a prisoner and there's a dead guy. That's the truth. All right?
And that's the only truth that exists.
This brings back memories of some of the foul tactics used by Maple MAGA during last year's election when Mark Carney was accused of having ties to Epstein, and AI-generated images appeared on social media of Carney with Epstein and Maxwell and Clinton frolicking in a swimming pool and other fakes. According to a quick Google search, the grain of truth that created these conspiracy theories comes from an authentic photo of Ghislaine Maxwell from a 2013 festival in the UK showing Mark Carney and his wife among other public figures, including Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's convicted accomplice. Carney's team stated that Maxwell went to school with Carney's sister-in-law and that they occasionally bumped into each other in public settings but were not friends. The spread of these claims has been linked to coordinated right-wing political attacks and misinformation campaigns targeting Carney during his political career, particularly ahead of the Canadian federal election in April of 2025. The content often uses globalist tropes associated with far-right conspiracies. And one heckler was shown the door after shouting accusations at Carney during a campaign event.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
On it, Mom.
A CBC reporter shared that the heckler was escorted out of the rally. Reuters has reported Carney's images with Maxwell and Hanks are AI generated.
But actually, in fact, Republican Congressman Thomas Massey claims that the FBI has the names of some of Epstein's clients, including a Canadian billionaire whose identity is so far unknown. According to CTV, Massey said a sex trafficking indictment in the Southern District of New York produced a series of documents summarizing interviews with victims that named at least 20 men he alleges were Epstein clients. According to the victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, Massey said. The Republican who represents Kentucky said the list includes a Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, high-profile entertainers, a banker, and at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. Massey said he doesn't know exactly who the men are, but the FBI does. He asked Patel whether there were any active investigations into the men and if the FBI director had seen the documents that included the names. Well, one Canadian-American physicist has been mentioned in the emails. According to The Observer, Lawrence Klaus wrote to Epstein in 2017 asking for advice about how to handle allegations of sexual harassment, which he has always denied. Epstein was blunt. "Did you have sex with her?" he wrote. "Condom? Did she take it? ? I wouldn't respond. My advice is consistent, off the record." Krauss told The Observer on Friday, "I have never hidden the fact that I knew Jeffrey Epstein and interacted with him on several occasions, usually to attend salons with interesting speakers or scientific meetings. I sought out advice from essentially anyone I knew when false allegations about me were being circulated in the press in 2018. As should be noted, none of the communications with Epstein relate in any way to the horrendous crimes that he was accused of in 2019. I was as shocked as the rest of the world when he was arrested." There's no suggestion that any of these scientists named in the released emails committed any wrongdoing, but many were happy to remain in contact with the financier even after the full scale of his crimes was becoming visible. There's one notorious conviction here in Canada of Finnish fashion mogul Peter Nygard, who writes John C. Taylor of the Taylor Ring, a legal group. At the urging of U.S. officials, Peter Nygard was arrested in mid-December of 2021 by Canadian authorities in Winnipeg. He's being charged by federal prosecutors with sex trafficking of at least a dozen victims in the U.S., Bahamas, and Canada, among other locations. Nygard owns brands such as Alia, Tanjay, and Nygard, along with stores across the United States and Canada, netting over $200 million in annual sales. Nygard's soul-crushing sexual attacks are believed to have spanned at least the last 25 years of his career, which he used as a tool to exploit the dreams of young women looking to make it big in modeling. Most of his targets were chosen by design from backgrounds that made their circumstances more desperate. Nygard wanted them in a position without control, making it easy to carry out his long-term abuse. Other similarities between Nygard and Epstein are uncanny. Both predators kept private islands where they assaulted and trafficked young women and girls to their friends and influential business associates, held lavish parties, often used to lure and impress their intended victims, were befriended by Prince Andrew, now no longer a prince, who spent time with them on their private islands, had a right-hand girlfriend serving up young girls and women to him on a steady basis, and paid their unwilling victims in cash after their rapes took place. Well, Nygard is currently in a federal prison in Ontario, serving an 11-year sentence for sexual assault convictions. I know that's a short period of time. He was sentenced in September 2024 after being found guilty of 4 counts of sexual assault in a Toronto court. Nygard is appealing his conviction and sentence. In addition to the Ontario conviction, he faces other legal matters. In Montreal, he faces charges of sexual assault and forcible confinement with a trial scheduled. In Winnipeg, charges of sexual assault and unlawful confinement in Winnipeg were recently stayed by a judge due to police failing to retain records, a decision prosecutors chose not to appeal. And in the U.S., Authorities in New York have requested an extradition on 9 counts, including sex trafficking and racketeering. The extradition process is expected to proceed once his Canadian cases are finished. So, all of this is thoroughly revolting and very disturbing, and we can't allow the narrative to be spun by the likes of Megyn Kelly and Kevin the Lech O'Leary and the predator POTUS himself. The time has come. The vote is taking place, and we'll remove the regime of those protectors of PDF. Tomorrow we fight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell too. We appreciate y'all.
Hey, yeah, you. Before you click away to watch someone unbox a tactical toothbrush, let's talk about something real. Political Drain isn't just another content mill. We're a digital front in a very real war. Not with bullets, but with ideas, with action, and with solidarity. We pair urgent news with critical education. And we build community around actual resistance, not the hashtag kind. The kind that moves. But here's the thing. None of this is free. It isn't. Behind every video is time, labor, research, and some weird guy asking if we're gonna pay the hosting bill. And yeah, some of that money goes to things we can't necessarily say out loud. If you know, you know. Let's just say our special ops aren't Call of Duty LARPers. They're people making real moves to protect, uplift, and organize. You're not just funding a channel. You're funding a resistance network in a world where capital still calls the shots. Unfortunately, in a system built on artificial scarcity, even mutual aid has a price tag. And if we want to grow, if we want to win, we need your help. We need your help. So if you've got even a few bucks to spare, toss it our way. It's not for ads, it's not for merch drops, but for people making moves in the shadows so others can do it in the light. It's just us and you. So fund the mission, fund the fight, fund the future, because nobody's coming to save us. We save each other. That's how this works. Follow us on all these things you see here, and our link tree is in the description. Maybe even get some merch.